I know a lot of people won't watch this, if anyone watches this, but I really just created my account to vent, I guess. I was recently hospitalized for about a month and a half, and one of my friends from the hospital recommended me telling my story and sharing it with others, even if I'm not sharing it with anyone but my tablet. So I guess I should give it a shot. So basically, my story starts when I was born, as does everyone's. I was born with an abusive mother and a father who was extremely passive and really didn't care, so I really didn't have anyone sticking up for me. After a few years, my mother had my brother and sister, my little brother and sister, and that terrified me because at that point, my mother was abusive to me. She would call me fat, ugly, stupid, an idiot, weak. She would hit me, push me against fridges, and I was afraid that was going to happen to my brother and sister. Thankfully, when my brother and sister were born, my mother was, I guess you could call, a saint to them. They were spoiled, got everything they wanted, and I was just the child left behind, I guess. I know a lot of people would be like, why is it only me? Why am I the only one who is abused, and why is my life the only one that's miserable, and my brother and my sister and my dad and my mom can go on vacation while I'm stuck at home? But honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way, because I know my brother and sister couldn't have gone through the stuff I've been through. They'd have to grow up really fast. I don't wish that on anyone, even my worst enemies. I wouldn't even wish that on my mother. And I don't really consider her my mother anymore. I mean, it was such an awful thing to go through, and I would cry myself to sleep, and then my dad would send me to school, and I'd have to be this happy-go-lucky girl who always was cracking jokes and would be wild and be the teacher's pet and hang out with my friends rarely. My dad really didn't like me hanging out with other people because he didn't want me to be exposed. He didn't want people to know exactly what was going on in our house. And I guess I couldn't blame him. He was ashamed that my mother was treating her kids the way she does. And he didn't want other people to see that he had married, I guess, a monster. But this really did make my life a living hell. He hid all the evidence. He would never agree with me. Like, if I told the cops that my mother hit me, he'd say, oh, she's just imagining it, blah, 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 blah. And it got to the point where my mother had way too much power over me and my father. She did try and kill me a couple times. She smothered me with a pillow. My dad ended up coming downstairs during that process, and he ended up stopping her, and I called the cops, and CPS came and said they would check up on us, and nothing happened after that. They didn't come back for a checkup, which is what they're supposed to do, and right from then I knew that this was going to be a struggle. I was going to be abused for my entire life, and that essentially was the case. My childhood is completely ruined because no CPS workers listened to me, none of my attorneys listened to me, none of the cops listened to me, none of my family listened to me, none of my teachers listened to me, none of my friends listened to me, and they're supposed to be my best friends. It is extremely upsetting when you don't have a voice, essentially. I mean, not only was I being abused at home, but I was completely being ignored outside of my house, and that's the last thing I wanted. When I was a child, my mother would go through stages. She'd go through stages where she was extremely mean, and then for a week or two, she'd be extremely nice. She'd buy me things, she'd take me out to dinner, she'd take me on vacation, and it really played with my mind. And every time she would go through a nice phase, my dad would say, oh, she's going to change, oh, she's going to be a better mother to you. She's not going to hit you anymore. And eventually, those periods where she was nice happened less and less frequently. And I was the only one who was seeing it. My father didn't see it. My mother didn't see it. My brother and sister didn't see it. The CPS workers didn't see it. No one saw it at all. I was the only one who was there. And at this point, I was like in 5th grade. So, what is that, like 10 or 11? I was like 11 years old, and I could see this, but grown adults couldn't. And that was extremely frustrating because my dad, throughout my middle school years and into my high school years, had been trying to divorce my mom, and every time she would go through one of her nice phases, she would convince my dad to completely put the divorce on halt. That just made me more and more upset. I think I started cutting in the beginning of 7th grade, and I started purging, so I wouldn't eat wouldn't eat anything, and then when I did eat anything, I would eat large quantities, and then I'd force myself to throw up. So it was called bulimic, and I also had anorexia because I wouldn't be eating for long periods of time. So I was battling self-harm, anorexia, bulimia, depression, anxiety, and I also was battling abuse at home. And it was all something that was extremely hard for a 12-year-old in 7th grade. And it was completely unfair to me, and it just made my situation worse. Eventually, in the end of 8th grade, my mother was still hitting me. I called CPS, I called the police, I got an attorney. My dad started the long process of divorcing my mother, which, trust me, was long. I mean, it just ended, and it's almost the end of it. Right now, it's May, the end of May, and it just ended a week ago. I mean, that took like 3 years, basically. And that was extremely frustrating because it was extremely expensive. My mom was not cooperating. She moved out in November. She wouldn't move out, and she would stalk my house. She would follow me home from school. She'd come to the house and wait outside for me to leave, just so she could talk to me. And eventually I cracked. I took pills, and they had to call the hospital, and I was admitted. They released me shortly after. I was only in there for a couple days, and then they told me I had to cut contact with my mom. This was when my parents weren't divorced yet, so they were still together, but separated. And so I wasn't supposed to see my mom until further notice. 2 weeks later, my mom came to my house, screaming, yelling, saying that I couldn't do this to her. And that day, I tried to hang myself. They called the ambulance. I waited like 6 days in CPEP, which is where basically the waiting room for people who've tried to kill themselves or have depression. And I was admitted. I ended up spending, I believe, a month and a half up there. I was released at the end of April. And then, I mean, I've been trying to work through it now. They're considering sending me back, so that's why I'm making this video now, because I don't know what will happen. I do have suicidal thoughts on a daily basis. I walk into a room and think, oh, how can I kill myself in this room, or whatever, and it's really never gotten any easier. The hospital didn't help me at all. My treatment team that I was assigned sent me home when I wasn't ready. They also told me I should start seeing my mother, so I see her 3 times a week, and that hasn't gotten any better. No one's listening to me. I don't want to be around my mother, and basically I'm forced to, and I just wanted to share this because I don't think it's fair. I mean, why would they make me do this? I mean, honestly, I just want it all to end. Like, I don't care if my mom leaves. I don't care if I have to do it myself. All I know is I want it to leave. I want this weight in my heart to just leave, and that doesn't look like it's going to be happening anytime soon. I guess that's the end of the video today. Hopefully I'll post another one. I'm not sure. I might be away for a while because they might be admitting me today. I have an appointment with my therapist, and so she'll be telling me if I have to go to the hospital again or not. And hopefully I won't have to, because the hospital really sucks. Like, it's awful there. But who knows? Thanks for, I guess, listening. I don't know if anyone's listening or if anyone will listen, but if you do, post your comments or questions or responses to what I've been saying down in the comments. Like and subscribe if you want. I mean, I guess. Kind of new at this, but alright, thanks. Have a good day.